above 800 meters now in races longer than 800. It is just 5 across the line. That is it. Sable of India, he's had some good results this season. The Indians have come with a small but good team here to Budapest.
On your mark.
Koech, class of this field here with 8:04. This will be our first look, like I said, about with the races that have no time qualifiers. How will that affect tactics? Now, World Athletics making the decision that it was no longer fair, if you like. If you were in a latter heat, you knew what time you had to run a qualifying time. You were at a huge disadvantage in this first heat. Dan, you used to have to run a 1500, but this rule change, it's been much talked about in the endurance community. How do you think it might go?
Well, and I hope they do this at the collegiate level, and certainly each country adopts it. I like it. Just because there is an advantage, and it's a random draw. You could just randomly be in the third heat. You knew exactly what you needed to do, but it takes time chasing, I think, out of it, and creates more of a racing mentality, and I really like that.
I think it's fairer. I think it puts a lot of emphasis on seeding, and I think we'll see that even more when we head towards the 1500 later on this afternoon. This morning, the seeding has to be correct. But I think, the odds of getting a seeding that frustrates you is lower than them getting a heat that frustrates you. Everybody in the first and second heats are kind of going, oh, I really wish I'd been in that last one. And this way, you might be bemoaning ever so slightly you've got a tough heat, but I think it's fairer, and I think it should yield the very best athletes to the final.
And you think about it, Hannah, how many times have you seen, it's like all the time qualifiers came from that final heat?
Exactly, that's exactly what happens. So Getnet Wale of Ethiopia content to lead at the moment. It was 67 through the first 400 meters. That's not that quick. And I think this for me is what's going to be interesting as we watch the different races unfold. It may be more again when we look towards the 1500s. If you know you haven't got a sprint finish, you're going to wind it up earlier on. But I'm also surprised to see these men allow Getnet Wale to lead them through quite a sedate pace. There's an opportunity here for some of these athletes to run a personal best, but instead they're letting the Ethiopian control the race from the front. Matthew Clark trying to move through on the inside, but it's hard to hurdle when you've got big groups like this. Look at these men trying to sight the hurdle in a huge group like that. They're lucky to all stay on their feet. Vidar Jönsson of Sweden again choosing just to slot in on the inside. It's good positioning from Avinash Sable of India, last year's Commonwealth Games silver medalist. He's out of trouble there on the outside. But everyone still very much in it. Not too long for these men. But Wale, he almost looks uncomfortable at this pace. It's too easy for him. It's too slow. They're going to look more proficient over the barriers as they get going. Simon Koech content to sit in second place at the moment. The Kenyan just on the shoulder, just ahead of the Australian behind Wale. Wale still leading from Clark, from Koech. It was 2:53 through the first kilometre. Wale has led gun to tape, 2:53, but we could well see faster in a women's. I think we probably did see faster in a women's opening heat in Eugene. They're just starting to move now for me. Wale perhaps just starting to spread beat. Apologies, not in Paris, but the Kenyan stretching out. Kenya is so dominant in this event for years and years and years, and that's just slipped off in the last few years. You've seen the likes of Soufiane El Bakali and Lemecha Girma. Simon Koech will have grown up idolising many Kenyan steeplechasers, and here he is as one of the best in the world, not even putting his foot on the water barrier.
And that's something that the Kenyans, I think, were really the first athletes to do that, was to attack that water jump, not put your foot on it, and save that just split 100ths of a second. But there you see Koech, he runs with so much style, he runs with so much confidence, just a 20-year-old, but so much of hurdling is being able to identify your distance from the hurdle, anticipate it, be able to accelerate into it. And the athletes who are the most successful are the ones who can use the barrier to put a little bit distance between themselves and their competitors.
So the time at 2 kilometres was 5:43, a 2:50 kilometre there, led by Koech, and that's not that quick. It sped up a tiny bit, and I think that's the reaction we've seen from the other athletes. They've gone, nah, we're still slow through 2K. This is going to be a huge burn up. Sable of India was trying to push it on, but getting at Wale of Ethiopia is very, very experienced. He perhaps realises here he needs to get himself out of trouble. Oh, there are still a lot of men down there. First 5 will automatically qualify for the final. That is it. No time qualifiers. They are sprinting for their life here for a chance to race again in a World Championship final. And that is why they're going hell for leather down the back straight. With this race being slow, it's a tiny bit more accessible to those men that haven't run around the 8:10, under 8:10 this season. One of them at the moment, Tindouf of Morocco, is having an absolutely great run. He's just been pushed down into 3rd place, but he's put himself high up in this group. Wale takes the water jump. Koech safely over the Moroccan, battling here for 3rd place. Arce of Spain, he's having a wonderful year. You'd expect him to finish strongly, but what a move from the Canadian. He takes the last barrier supremely well. They all kick. It is going to be Wale from Ethiopia, but what a run from Jean-Simon Desagnu of Canada, and look at him punching the air. And that only happens if the race is slow. Desagnu came in with a personal best of 8:17, and he's just run 8:19 to make a World Championship final. He is ranked so low, and I think that's exciting. I think today, this weekend, he deserves to get into that final because he's navigated, he's proved he's a championship racer, and to finish 2nd in that field for the Canadian. Wow, Wale, Koech, Arce, that's fine. That's what you'd expect for the first heat. Getting it, Wale controlling much of that race. He took the win. Jean-Simon Desagnu of Canada celebrating like he'd won a gold medal. Simon Koech in 3rd, Daniel Arce in 4th. Ryoma Aoki of Japan takes that 5th and final qualifying spot by just over a 1/10 of a second.